it's a mulligan to 5 already. Yeah, but if I look at the hands, they don't look too promising, to be honest. No, it seems like he's not drawing the right side of the deck. And here we see a Seal of Strength.
It's also we've seen it before, but this is the forest that you have in Miscut. Is it Miscut?
No, that's not the correct forest.
Is it not?
No. I
Okay.
can show you the forest that he plays, and I will show you the forest that I have. So we're going back in time, ladies and gentlemen, when
Odyssey,
Wizards
right?
actually printed very beautiful basic lands.
I think we've had a lot of beautiful basic lands in the last couple of years as well. But the old border does make a difference.
Yes, it does. So
Spell Pierce on the Adventurer's gear is one piece of interaction that we're seeing, which might not be enough. I don't see a Bolt. I see a Cloud of Dominus. I see a Expressive Iteration, a Snapcaster Mage, and I think the last card is a Fiery Islet from Doctor Who. And we see the trigger on the stack. And he has a okay, yeah, this gets around. This line plays perfectly around red removal.
very
Hello,
true.
Letterson. He now has hexproof for in some form of information. Something happens, and the opponent gets more information about your hand than he should from the forests that you have drawn.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to point out here's the swap to Sandman. A much needed swap, in fact, which slows down the entire plan a bit, but it gives you much more resilience in terms of.
It gives you much more resilience, and also, like, in this situation, he is one game one. He's
Exactly.
on the draw. He can slow his game plan down a whole bunch
Yeah.
and just win the grind now and not worry about what else is what's happening. This Sylvan Safekeeper is not as relevant anymore
True.
to this sort of game plan. Actually, you don't really want to be sacrificing lands, and you're not going to be going all in that often.
So you might as well just let that guy resolve
Yeah,
and.
you might as well. And if the Spiderman player fails to identify that and does actually spend removal on him, then you're happy about it.
Absolutely, yeah. Then your plan has definitely worked out. Listen, on YouTube, I can use the translate function. It's not available here on Twitch, so please use the translate function yourself so that everyone can understand what you are talking about.
I just discovered I'm looking at forests alongside this, and I just discovered a forest that I haven't seen before.
For whatever reason, Sebastian decided to protect the safekeeper from the galvanic discharge by
Using an Invigorate.
using the invigorate. Okay.
So he might have either drawn Tifa, or he might have some.
It could be another 2-drop that does the job, right?
Yeah. Could be a Scythe Cat Carb, something around those lines that he does actually want to have protection available for.
I mean, maybe even I didn't play. Oh, there's a Keynight Curator. Yeah, that's definitely worth keeping up, I guess. And here comes the Brazen Borrower.
It's a tempo play, but not a great tempo play. I feel like this card just goes back to his hand. There is the Wild Charge in hand, which means that there will be a very high life point swing
Wild Ride, you mean?
when yeah, no, reckless charge, sorry.
Reckless Charge.
What
Okay.
did I say?
Wild Charge, you said.
Wild
So
charge. Yeah, they're
that's
basically the same card.
that's both cards fused actually.
Yeah. Uh, so yeah, basically the turn after this one, we might see Spider-Man come down. Mm,
Yeah,
Notably, the Brazen Borrower goes straight to the graveyard if the card it's targeting gets Shroud.
exactly. The entire thing is
Um,
fizzling, and that seems to be quite promising. I think the combination between Keen-Eyed Curator, if you get to, I mean, right now we have instant, creature, land, and graveyard, right? So if you manage to bring it up to 4 mana, the Tree of Tails actually gives you 2 types at once. Since you can sacrifice it with the
True.
Safekeeper if you like to do that. All of a sudden, we have a 7/7 trample on board that also gets to block a Spider-Man. And yeah, I think
Curious to see what this intuition is for, what it is going to get, if it is
the
going to get
intuition
anything.
is usually there for the reckless charge,
Yeah,
wild ride, and a third spell.
Phoenix.
Or cloud. Can also go for the cloud of dominoes,
Yeah, fair enough.
which is already in hand. If I no, it's a Lorien revealed intuition,
Murktide
reckless
and
charge, and a
Reckless Charge.
Murktide. Right, a Murktide. Yeah.
So there is the like he might just cycle the Lauren revealed for a land here, yeah, which is
Yeah.
what he's doing. Intuition is maybe a bit awkward here. Um, is the life total correct?
I think so. Yeah. Uh, because
But did you not attack with the curator? This curator and safekeeper?
wasn't there? He gained 4 life from the invigorate, right?
Ah, yep.
3 life, not 4. 3 life.
Yeah, that makes sense. There was a fetch. There have been 2 attacks from the safekeeper,
Yeah.
and yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So let's see what Spider-Man
Demons.
comes up with. The crop rotation will likely result in the Talon Gates.
Could very well result in a Talon Gates, which could also so phase out the Keen-Eyed Curator, and in response he can
No, you phase out Spider-Man
exile.
in response to the reckless charge,
Oh, true. Yeah.
right? I think that's even
Yeah,
better.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that is better.
So yeah, I mean, you definitely have to do something here. You could also think about casting the Murktide, and
5/5, I think, currently.
yeah, it seems to be the Murktide cast here, using the reckless charge. That's a bit awkward. You never got to make use of the Keen-Eyed Curator here, and Murktide is a card that you don't see. Should be 2 counters, right? It's really hard to tell whether or not the counters on the card are.
Yeah. However, if the curator gets to all its types, we have a land in graveyard, we have an instant in graveyard, we have a land and an instant in the graveyard. So not quite getting to all its types.
Yeah, unfortunately
Um,
not. And I think you don't necessarily want to use the crop rotation that aggressively.
yeah, I don't like doing that either. So he gets an instant with the keen-eyed and then untaps. He has access to one more type if he takes the Tree of Tails. But right now the 5/5 wall that is Murktide is blocking him.
Yeah.
He could also, if he has a land, just play the land and cast Sandman
Yeah, that's also true. I mean,
as a 3/3 that kind of starts the loop going.
nah, I think
But then
with
again, no,
yeah,
I don't like it. Never mind, never mind. That's not a nice line when
with
you
the
have
crop
access to
rotation, yeah, I think for as long
stopping
as you
the
can,
Spider-Man
yeah,
line
yeah, exactly.
the turn that it comes down.
So the other card is a Ghostfire Slice, right? Yeah. So we have Intuition, Ghostfire Slice, and the Reckless Charge. So taking a longer thought here, which makes sense. Still don't know what's at stake, but I would assume there are quite a few things here. We have a promising vein. That's one of the 10 slow fetches, or yeah, however you want to call them. At
One of the
least,
10 very slow fetches because you
yeah,
are also
very
paying
costly for
mana.
sure. Very costly for sure.
Then again, it comes into play untapped and creates a mana right away, which Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse don't do.
True.
So in the end, although it's across 2 turns,
Ooh, we have a
um,
scale up. Targeting
oh,
the. Yeah, I like that. The scale up
the
targeting
Safekeeper.
the Safekeeper here. And now the question is, yeah, it's. I mean, you can. Can you go for lethal here? No, you can't.
How?
It's not lethal, but you can deal 13 damage if you like. If there is an additional. Okay, you can actually. Ah, it
I
doesn't
don't
work
see
out.
the cards in hand.
Oh, no,
I'm
no, it
not
does
sure
work out.
what
It does
your.
work out. It does work out. Um, I'm not sure if there's like a pump spell in hand. If that's the case, then you could go for the Talon Gates, face out Murktide.
And
But
pump the
ah, but
Keynight Curator.
but in the process, you still need to exile 2 more cards, right? Because you need to pay 2 mana to exile the sorcery. Because now you have 3 types, 4 types
Ah, so what he's currently thinking about is what he's currently doing is doing it
without the crop
without
rotation.
using the crop
Yeah,
rotation.
which
So
is
if he wants
okay,
to
I
block
guess.
with a Murktide, he just does. However, this does leave him dead to the Wild Ride that's in Spider-Man's hand.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
absolutely.
the
Reckless charge.
Reckless Charge. He just takes the damage. It is 6 plus 7 is 13. There is the option like blocking with the Murktide is playing around mutagenic growth. And maybe he thinks, okay, well I can bluff the mutagenic growth, and if he has it, then he has it, but no, he's just taking it. Is it?
I mean, why would
Yeah,
you not
one
take
plus.
it? Why would you not take it, right?
Well, if he thinks there is a mutagenic growth, then
Okay, yeah,
you've lost if you
yeah,
don't block, right?
that's true.
Um, but there isn't, and there's a Spider-Man, and there's a Reckless Charge, and that
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
game.
Mhm. Mhm. So, Spider-Man currently thinking about the munning decision. There's an Unholy Heat that definitely helps against Tifa. starting the game with a beautiful 8th or 9th edition Birds of Paradise. I think it's a 8th edition, right?
I don't think Birds is in 9th.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
Yeah. It's also my birds of choice for the last I don't know how many years. I love the card.
It
I
is
recently
a nice choice.
did get a card that a version that I might be playing instead for a little bit. The Monty Python one,
Mm.
specifically the blue swallow on the backside.
That's really cool. I know which one you're
Yeah,
talking
I
about.
really like this card. Mm,
Let me see, where is it? Wasn't it a secret layer? Yeah.
yeah, it's a secret layer.
Can I not find it? Here. This one, yeah.
This one and then the backside, this one.
African swallow or the European swallow?
Yes, European swallow.
Okay.
The blue one.
I was about to say the coconut bird because because of the coconuts they are carrying.
Yeah, they're carrying a coconut because that's the question in the movie.
Ah, I see.
How fast does a laden swallow carry a coconut across something? I don't quite remember the wording, but it's a good joke.
That's funny. So we have a turn 2 Sandman coming down. However, a Stern Scolding deals with that. I think on stack is Sandman
Yes.
a
It's the
2/2
same with
on stack.
Tamavoy.
Okay, yeah. It has the
Right?
characteristics that are
Yeah.
currently applying. Yeah, fair. In this case, I would have probably rather used the Unholy Heat, I guess.
Well, the Sandman. If there are land drops, then the Sandman is coming back eventually, and maybe that's a card that you want to keep for the Sandman coming back.
But then you mean like for the big unholy, the big, the deliriumed unholy heat?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man is usually a deck that's not that good at getting up delirium, so I
Yeah.
would assume because Stern Scolding deals with most of the creatures that you play in the 99 in Tifa, while Unholy Heat has a very limited window of being useful.
True. That could be correct. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how your opponents were when you were playing FIFA, but I would think that they don't have a full inventory of every creature you're playing in their mind and thinking, okay, well, Unholy Heat's going to be bad at some point. I think Unholy Heat is a card that, like vibes based, you keep for a while to play it later. Oh,
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's a good decision here, because against Spider-Man, every and we and there's the Legolas quick reflexes coming in. Yeah, and you're going to block the Malcolm. So now you have a 3/4. You're definitely not supposed to play any other creature. Otherwise, it would
yeah. If he
be.
does play another creature, that would be very bad.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this is a line that he would have loved to have kept for another turn. Maybe it would have actually been correct to just say, okay, well, I'll take the 2 damage from the Malcolm this round, and next round you have that blowout against Spider-Man being deployed. But
Yeah, but you
all
you
sorts of things
can
can go wrong there as well.
yeah, exactly. I guess you're filtering more and more cards with Malcolm, and we all know that Spider-Man definitely changed the math around when is the time to be scared of facing lethal.
Yeah.
Back then, playing against red deck wins with 10 HP, you felt safe, or maybe you started to worry about the game if you're at 10 HP. It doesn't work. Oh, well, let me check. No, right. Never mind. So, and the life game from the Capenna fetch definitely helps too.
Yeah. What are you saying doesn't work?
No, never mind. Everything's fine. Yeah, so that's why I was saying I can see why Sebastian thinks about the 2 damage that Malcolm deals are definitely relevant in this matchup. If all of a sudden you face a double wild ride and stuff, and then a bunch of damage afterwards, right? So here we are with a 5/5 on field.
Which is only gonna be getting bigger.
Yeah.
And stonewalls the Spider-Man pretty well.
Yes.
And
That's
with the Capenna fetch in the graveyard, most of his interaction, unless it's bounce interaction, which also needs to be counted on the way down again, and all these things are pretty shit against uh, the Sandman. Which is a very ironic thing happening here right now because Spider-Man, or Sandman, is one of Spider-Man's villains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the the fight behind the curtains here, so to say. Lore wise, very interesting.
And with
Lots
the way
of
that the design is, I don't think it was intended that this matchup would ever happen in an actual game of Magic where Sandman would be good against a Spider-Man deck. There does not seem to be that much thought behind the design of these cards, in my opinion.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, maybe, but then again, I don't think so. So we have a Centaur Garden coming down. I love this card.
So now there is damage trading happening. So he's decided, okay, well, I will attack. The Spider-Man damage trigger at end of turn doesn't happen from too many cards. Um,
Yeah, and now there's a
but
Delighted Halfling coming down. So here you have a blocker that you need to deal with first.
yeah,
And apart from
Centaur
that,
Garden is not active yet.
no,
Has to have threshold.
that's something that I really dislike about the card, to be honest.
Yeah, fair
It's
enough.
it's rarely active. But in combination with some cards, can be useful for sure. Just attacking with the Spider-Man. Do we see a true name nemesis here? No. That's a Daze. And what is the last card? So, Sebastian thinking about fetching here. Activating the Junt Panorama. Whoops, I was missing.
Gets him one card closer to threshold.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the reason behind that.
Which also means that I mean, it is kind of I would say, a standstill when the Swarm Yard is active
Mm.
and the Spider-Man can just block the Sandman. There needs to be something to give trample. And yeah, usually Spider-Man would be 2 power and wouldn't be able to block the Sandman, but there is a Opal Palace that grew. So very interesting dynamic going
Yeah,
on.
definitely. I mean, at some point you have to consider jumping Sandman because there are 3 cards in hand. There might be
Well, no,
some.
he can, but he can just regenerate it with the Swarm Yard.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So this
That's a
dynamic,
bit awkward actually
yeah.
on Sebastian's side. Just to show you the Swarm Yard real quick. A card that was absolutely irrelevant for years. All of a sudden, I think the first time it was played was with the 3 mana black red in the command zone that would make a red token on ETB and exile a card whenever a red enters. Something like this, I guess.
I think this was
I
also a mainstay in the Grist 60
Yes,
insect deck.
which was a very fun pile. That's true. But apart from that, we haven't had any relevant insects, squirrels, spiders, and rats in the command zone. So yeah, but now we do. And Swarmyard has its very first. Oh, there's a green sun seen it for x equals 2. That could result in a couple of cards.
Notably, not another card for the graveyard to give Threshold.
Yeah.
So what options are there? There is
I think Keynight Curator is not the worst in that board state.
yeah,
Touching
there's
something
Frenzied
with
Baloth,
trample.
Keynight Curator, Bristly Bell.
The Badger
Scythecat
Mole Cup.
Cub
The Badger
is
Mole
also a
Cup. It
good
doesn't.
card.
Yeah. But I think it's
Mm.
not too crazy here, to be honest.
I'm curious to see why he's doing it for 2. He definitely has a card to search for.
Yeah,
That
because
he's thought about beforehand.
if you look at the list, the thing is the higher targets are in that situation not too valuable. I think.
If he can keep hitting land drops, Mossborn Hydra could grow big enough to get past
Yeah, but it
the
starts
Spiderman.
so small.
That's
And
true.
looking at his list, there are not that many creatures actually. So you really don't have too many targets. The Guardian Augmenter is useless here. The Traveling Chocobo doesn't interact with your commander.
Okay, he's going for a Badger Mole Cub. A way to block the Spider-Man twice, while he looks for other cards um, to trample and win the game with the commander. I would say that would be my guess. It's also a very awkward dynamic that the commander is now a 6/6 and cannot die to. Oh, I don't know. It does die to the Spider-Man, so he could just block with it, let it die, and keep getting back more lands and have it grow that way.
Yeah.
At least do it once.
Yeah, the Opal Palace as well as the Swarmyard. I mean, it's more like the Swarmyard is doing a good job here.
Yeah.
Um, Here we have a Windswept Heath coming down. So the Badger Mole Cup is expectedly targeting the
Oh, the Centaur
Tower
Garden,
Garden. Yeah,
which means
makes sense. Why not?
yeah. I think that's a Vines of Vastwood that I see.
If he has that, that would be a crazy blowout. Because that would, I mean, it's not crazy, but you would prevent Spider-Man from being regenerated if that comes through. The question is
Does
whether
it?
or not, yes, because it says target creature basically gains hexproof from your opponents. And Vines
Oh,
of Vastwood is the only card that provides that. You can also target an opponent's creature. Very, very relevant in certain
yeah.
situations.
Maybe he doesn't see it, or maybe that wasn't the card we were looking for.
I mean, it could also that I mean he's just trying to tank it in order to search for an opportunity to use it as an actual boost, you know,
Yeah.
which makes sense
Yeah,
to me.
the vigilance on the Spider-Man is such a pain in the ass here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really tough to.
It's a card that design-wise, I don't think it needed vigilance, but it got it anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
So the
why
Windswept
why
Thief could search a Dried Arbor.
why does a blue-red creature have vigilance? Vigilance is a white ability.
You are asking the wrong questions, my friend. What is this spell? Is it a remount?
We have Spell Pierce Island Days in hand, I think.
Is it a spell pierce? That could be the case, yeah.
That's the pirate Spell Pierce, I think.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's true. So it's an interesting match here. Very, very grindy.
He could block with the Badgermole Cub. He could attack with the Badgermole Cub next turn to maybe get that Centaur Garden damage through.
You can also block with the
Mm.
Centaur Garden, and the Centaur Garden comes back.
It comes back as not a creature.
That's
So
true, but it comes back. So you can still use the ability if needed. Because the deck
yeah,
also plays a couple of spells that would grant trample, you know.
I feel like there is a valid consideration for just not blocking here as well. Because it gives you access to all your creatures next turn. You can Alpha Strike with, or at least attack with Badgermole Cub and your commander to maybe be able to pump the Badgermole Cub to a large size.
Mm-hmm.
He's at
Oh,
22. If there is a wild ride, oh no, he blocks with the Cub. Okay.
I like the fact that Sebastian is actually playing a ram through. That's a pretty cool card. Reminds me of the Hogak times.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, true. Not a lot of creatures do have trample. Oh, that's what he's looking for. That's very good. Yeah. So if he wants to keep Spider-Man around, he has to tap the Swarm Yard.
And then Spider-Man is apparently tapped. Yeah, okay.
And then Spider-Man is tapped. If not, he still has to tap out.
Which would be okay. And I mean, but it means that you cannot activate the Opal Palace, right? Unless you want to. Okay. Deciding to.
Let the trade happen.
Yeah. Which makes sense, I think. And now using the Opal Palace, not keeping the Swarm Yard open, which is a bit dangerous.
Yeah, he deals
Since
4 damage.
there can be a Rancor coming down. There can be a Berserk coming down.
And there's also just like this. Yeah, it's attacking for 8. So there's one
if you
more
do not
damage from
block,
the.
yeah, if it's the Vines of Westwood and he does not block, you have to block here. If you respect, it is a Vines of Westwood, right? And that's GG. Oh yeah, baby. I
Yeah,
mean,
very powerful.
yeah, that is really, really good.